What happens when a powerful cardinal with secrets meets a desperate woman with nothing to lose? Will the truth set them free or destroy everything? Sit back, grab your popcorn, and find out as we dive into this shocking true life story. In a popular city in Italy, there was a cardinal everyone respected. His name was Cardinal Leonardo Leo Vittorio. He led a very popular global Catholic ministry, and people came from far and near to hear him speak every Sunday. The ministry's auditorium was filled to the brim with people standing outside just to catch a glimpse of the man of God. When Cardinal Leo spoke, his voice was powerful and his words seemed to touch every heart. Many people believed he had a special connection with God. He prayed for the sick, helped the poor, and blessed couples on their wedding day. But behind closed doors, Cardinal Leo was not the holy man people thought he was. He had secrets, dark secrets that only a few people knew about. There were whispers in the city about a shadowy financial scheme involving the ministry's charitable funds, but no one could ever prove anything. One evening after a midweek service, Cardinal Leo sat in his large office. The room smelled of expensive perfume. A young ministry worker knocked and entered timidly. "Your Eminence, the Board of Trustees wants to see you," the young man said, bowing slightly. Cardinal Leo looked up, his smile warm but his eyes cold. "Tell them I will join them soon," he said calmly. When the young man left, Cardinal Leo leaned back in his chair. His phone buzzed and he picked it up. A text from an unknown number appeared. "God is watching you. Change your ways before it's too late." Cardinal Leo stared at the message for a moment, then smiled to himself. He deleted it and went back to his work. Chiara was a young woman with big dreams. She had recently gotten a job as Cardinal Leo's personal assistant. To many, it seemed like a blessing to work for such a powerful man. But for Chiara, it was just a way to survive. Her mother was sick and needed constant care, and Chiara had to send money home every month. Finding this job felt like a miracle. But she also had a secret. Chiara was HIV positive. It wasn't something she talked about, not even to her closest friends. On her first day at work, Chiara dressed neatly in a plain pink shirt and a blue skirt. She knocked softly on Cardinal Leo's office door. "Come in," his deep voice called out. Chiara entered, her hands slightly trembling. "Good afternoon, Your Eminence," she said, forcing a smile. Cardinal Leo looked up and smiled warmly. "Ah, you must be Chiara," he said, standing up to shake her hand. "Welcome to the team. I've heard good things about you." "Thank you, Your Eminence," Chiara replied, her voice steady but her heart pounding. Cardinal Leo gestured for her to sit. "This job will demand a lot from you," he began. "I need someone who is loyal, hardworking, and ready to sacrifice for the work of God. Are you ready for that?" "Yes, Your Eminence, I am ready," Chiara said confidently. "Good," Cardinal Leo said, his smile widening. "Here we are like a family. We protect each other. We trust each other. If you have any issues, feel free to come to me directly." "Okay. Yes, Your Eminence." "Thank you, Your Eminence," Chiara said again, nodding as she left his office. Chiara couldn't shake the uneasy feeling she had. Something about Cardinal Leo's smile didn't sit right with her. It was too perfect, too polished, like a mask hiding something underneath. Chiara told herself to focus on the job. She needed the money, and that was all that mattered. But deep down, she couldn't ignore the small voice in her head warning her that this job might cost her more than she was ready to give. Chiara had been working as Cardinal Leo's assistant for 2 weeks, and everything seemed fine at first. She quickly learned her duties, scheduling meetings, replying to messages, and organizing ministry events. It was a busy job, but Chiara was determined to do her best. One day, she accidentally stumbled upon a hidden file on the ministry's server. It contained spreadsheets with large, unmarked financial transfers to offshore accounts. She quickly closed it, her heart racing, deciding it was wiser to pretend she never saw it. "Chiara, you're doing well," Cardinal Leo said one afternoon as she handed him a file. "Very smart and hardworking. I wish all my staff were like you." "Thank you, Your Eminence," Chiara replied, smiling politely. But as the days went by, Chiara began to notice things that didn't feel right. Cardinal Leo complimented her too much. "You look beautiful today," he said one morning when she walked into the office. "That color suits you. I can see you have good taste." "Thank you, Your Eminence," Chiara said, though she felt uncomfortable. She wasn't sure if he was just being kind or if there was more to it. One evening, as Chiara was about to leave for the day, Cardinal Leo called her back into his office. Kiara, he said, gesturing for her to sit. I want us to talk. Kiara sat down slowly, her heart beating a little faster. Yes, Your Eminence. You've been doing an amazing job, Cardinal Leo began, leaning forward. You are different. There's something special about you. Thank you, Your Eminence, Kiara said, looking down at her hands. Cardinal Leo continued. You know, people like you are rare. You're not just hardworking, you're also very beautiful. Do people tell you that often? Kiara shifted in her seat. I don't really think about that, Your Eminence. I just try to do my work. Cardinal Leo smiled, but his eyes lingered on her in a way that made her skin crawl. That's good, but you should know your worth. A woman like you deserves to be appreciated. Thank you, Your Eminence, Kiara said quickly, standing up. I'll finish the work you gave me before tomorrow. She turned to leave, but Cardinal Leo stopped her. Wait, Kiara, don't rush off. We're just talking. I hope you feel comfortable around me. You know you can trust me, right? Yes, Your Eminence, she said, forcing a smile. As Kiara left the office, she felt a strange mix of emotions. She didn't like how Cardinal Leo was talking to her, but she also didn't want to lose her job. She needed the money to take care of her sick mother. That night, Kiara couldn't sleep. She kept replaying Cardinal Leo's words in her head. You're very beautiful. You deserve to be appreciated. Why is he saying these things, she wondered. Is this how he talks to everyone? Or is it just me? Kiara decided to ignore it and focus on her work. But deep down, she knew this wasn't the end. Cardinal Leo's behavior was only the beginning, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for what was coming next. Kiara sat at her desk, going through files and making sure Cardinal Leo's schedule for the week was organized. It was a quiet afternoon until the intercom buzzed. Kiara, please come to my office, Cardinal Leo's deep voice said. Yes, Your Eminence, she replied, gathering her notebook and pen. She walked to his office and knocked lightly before stepping inside. Come in, Kiara. Sit down, Cardinal Leo said with a smile, motioning to the chair across from him. Kiara sat down, her notebook in hand, ready to take notes. But Cardinal Leo didn't speak about work. Instead, he leaned forward and said, Kiara, you know you're special, don't you? She frowned slightly, unsure of where the conversation was going. Thank you, Your Eminence, she said cautiously. No, I mean it, Cardinal Leo continued, reaching out to hold her hand. You are not just hardworking. You're beautiful, graceful. You have something many women don't have. Kiara quickly pulled her hand away, feeling a knot in her stomach. Your Eminence, I think we should focus on the work, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Cardinal Leo smiled softly, leaning back in his chair. Kiara, don't be so uptight. You know, in life, there are opportunities that come only once. You're in a position many people would do anything to have. Anything. Kiara didn't like the tone in his voice. Your Eminence, I'm just here to do my job, she said firmly. Cardinal Leo's smile faded slightly. Kiara, let me be clear with you. There are many beautiful ladies out there who are ready to do anything to take your position. If you want to keep your job, you should think about how to be flexible. Kiara felt her heart drop. Your Eminence, I don't understand what you mean, she said, though deep down she knew exactly what he was saying. Cardinal Leo gave a short laugh, his eyes cold. You're smart, Kiara. I'm sure you do. She stood up quickly. Your Eminence, if there's nothing else, I'd like to get back to work. Cardinal Leo's smile was gone now. He waved her off dismissively. Go, but think about what I said. Don't make me regret giving you this opportunity. Kiara walked out of the office, her mind racing. She knew she couldn't give in to his demands, but she also knew how much she needed this job. A week later, she came to work as usual, only to find a letter waiting for her on her desk. It was short and cold. This is to inform you that your services are no longer required. Please return all ministry property immediately. Kiara's hand shook as she read the letter. She went to Cardinal Leo's office to ask for an explanation, but his personal guard stopped her. He is busy, the guard said. Kiara left the ministry that day with her belongings in a small box. Tears filled her eyes as she walked down the road. She thought about her sick mother back in the village and how she would manage without a job. For weeks, Kiara searched for another job, but nothing came up. She felt trapped, angry, and helpless. Deep inside, she knew that Cardinal Leo had fired her because she refused to play along with his games. It was a dark time for Kiara, but she promised herself one thing. She wouldn't give up. What she didn't know was that her story with Cardinal Leo was far from over. Weeks turned into months, and Kiara's life became harder every day. Her rent was due, and her mother's medical bills kept coming. She sat on her small bed, staring at her last few currency notes, wondering how she would buy food. Her phone vibrated, showing a low battery warning. She sighed, scrolling through her contacts, thinking of anyone she could call for help. There was no one. She thought of Cardinal Leo and how he had fired her without mercy. Her anger boiled, but so did her desperation. The next morning, she put on her best dress and went to the ministry office. She was ready to swallow her pride. She waited in the reception area, her hands shaking. Finally, Cardinal Leo stepped out of his office. He stopped when he saw her, raising an eyebrow. "Kiara," he said, "what are you doing here?" "Good afternoon, Your Eminence," Kiara said, standing up. "I need to talk to you." Cardinal Leo looked around, then motioned for her to follow him into his office. He sat down, leaning back in his chair. "I didn't expect to see you again. What do you want?" "Sir, I'm sorry for anything I might have done wrong. I really need my job back. Things are very hard for me," she said, her voice breaking. Cardinal Leo smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. "You see, Kiara, I gave you a good opportunity, but you didn't appreciate it. Do you know how many women would love to work for me?" "I understand, Your Eminence," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "Please, Your Eminence. I'll do anything." His eyes lit up at those words. "Anything you say?" he asked, leaning forward. Kiara nodded, her throat dry. She knew what he meant. "All right," Cardinal Leo said, his tone soft. "You can have your job back. But you must promise to show me respect. No more acting like you're better than me. Do you agree?" "Yes, Your Eminence," she said, forcing herself to look him in the eye. "Good," he said, standing up. "Come back on Monday. And remember, Kiara, loyalty is everything." Kiara left his office, her heart pounding. She hated herself for agreeing to his terms, but she had no choice. This time, she told herself, she would be smart. She would keep records of everything. It started with a phone call from Cardinal Leo one evening after church. "Kiara," he said, his voice smooth. "I need to see you. Not at the office. Somewhere private." "Where, Your Eminence?" she asked, pretending not to understand. "I'll book a hotel room this evening," he said. "I'll text you the details." Her stomach turned, but she agreed. She needed to follow through with her plan. The first meeting was awkward. Kiara sat on the edge of the hotel bed, watching Cardinal Leo remove his jacket. "You look tense," he said, sitting beside her. "I'm fine, Your Eminence," she replied, forcing a smile. "You don't need to call me Your Eminence here," he said, placing a hand on her knee. "Relax." She nodded, swallowing her disgust. She reminded herself why she was doing this. Over the weeks, their meetings became a routine. After church services, Cardinal Leo would call her and ask her to meet him at a hotel room. He would hand her envelopes of cash, saying, "Use this for your mother's treatment." But what shocked Kiara the most was his carelessness. He never asked for protection. "I'm a prince of the church," he would say with pride. "God protects his own." Kiara wanted to laugh at his words, but she stayed quiet. She recorded their conversations on her phone, hiding the files in a secret folder. She also saved every text message he sent. During one of their meetings, she overheard him on a hushed phone call, discussing moving the assets and silencing that accountant, Marco. The name sent a chill down her spine as she read in the news that a ministry accountant named Marco had recently died in a hit-and-run. At night, when she was alone, she would cry. She hated what she was doing, but her anger kept her going. "He started this," she whispered to herself. "I'll make him pay for everything." Isabella, a high-ranking nun who served as Cardinal Leo's devoted public partner in his charitable works, sat in the living room one evening, watching him scroll endlessly on his phone. He had been doing that a lot lately. "Leo, you've been on that phone all day," she said, trying to sound casual. "I'm replying to ministry messages," he replied without looking up. Isabella studied him. Something about his tone felt off. She had been noticing little changes. How he stayed out late after church, his sudden increase in meetings, and the way he avoided her questions. That evening, she decided to do something about it. The next day, Isabella called Kiara into her office at the ministry. "Kiara, sit down," she said, folding her arms across her chest. Kiara hesitated, but sat. "Good morning, sister." Isabella leaned forward. "Kiara, I'm a woman of God, and I know when something is not right. There's something going on between you and His Eminence, isn't there? Kiara's heart skipped. Sister, I don't understand what you're talking about, she said, keeping her voice steady. Isabella smirked. I see the way he looks at you, and I've noticed how uncomfortable you look around me. Let me warn you now, Kiara. If you're doing anything you shouldn't be doing, it will not end well for you. Kiara shook her head quickly. Sister, I respect you and Cardinal Leo. I would never do anything to disrespect this ministry. Isabella's eyes stayed fixed on her. I hope so, Kiara. Be careful. As Kiara walked out of the office, her hands trembled. She could feel the walls closing in. Isabella didn't believe Kiara's denial. She had trusted her instincts for years, and they had never failed her. That evening, she called her friend, Mother Agnes, for advice. Agnes, I need your help. Something is going on with Leo, and I need to know the truth, Isabella said. Isabella, you need evidence before you confront him. Have you thought about hiring someone? Mother Agnes replied. The idea lingered in Isabella's mind. The next morning, she made a call to a private investigator. 2 weeks later, Isabella received a phone call from the investigator. Madam, I followed Cardinal Leo to a hotel yesterday. He wasn't alone, the man said. Isabella gripped her phone tightly. Who is he with? The young lady that works as his assistant, he replied. The investigator sent Isabella pictures, clear evidence of Cardinal Leo entering the hotel with Kiara. Isabella stared at the pictures that night, her emotions a mix of anger, sadness, and betrayal. So it's true, she whispered to herself. But she didn't act immediately. Instead, she decided to wait. She wanted the perfect moment to confront both of them. Leo, you think you're smart, she murmured, clutching the photos. Let's see how smart you are when I'm done with you. Isabella's plan was set, and the storm was coming. Cardinal Leo sat in his office one evening, looking at the mirror. He looked pale and tired. He had lost so much weight that even his favorite clothes no longer fit properly. He leaned back in his chair and sighed heavily. Kiara walked in with some documents for him to sign. Good evening, Your Eminence, she said, avoiding his eyes. Leave them on the table, Cardinal Leo said weakly. His voice was rough. Kiara placed the papers down and hesitated. She could see the pain on his face and the way his hands trembled. Sir, are you okay? She asked quietly. He looked up, his eyes narrowing. Why do you care? You just want your salary at the end of the month, don't you? Kiara stepped back, shocked. No, Your Eminence, I was only asking. He waved her off. Go. As she left, Kiara couldn't shake off the guilt that had been building inside her. Cardinal Leo's health was clearly failing, and while she didn't know the full reason, she suspected it was linked to their secret meetings. Later that night, as Kiara lay on her bed, her thoughts were racing. What if it's because of me? What if I've caused this? She whispered to herself. But then she remembered how he had treated her, how he had forced her into this situation. He did this to himself, she muttered, trying to convince herself. But deep down, the guilt lingered. It was a bright Sunday morning, and the ministry was filled with people for a special meeting with the Board of Trustees. Cardinal Leo sat at the head of the table, trying to look composed despite his failing health. Kiara stood at the back of the room, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Isabella suddenly burst into the room, her face filled with anger. Excuse me, trustees, but I have something important to show you, she said loudly. The room fell silent. Cardinal Leo's face went pale as he shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Isabella, what are you doing? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Isabella ignored him and handed a brown envelope to the head trustee. These are pictures of His Eminence, Cardinal Leo, with this girl, she said, pointing at Kiara. Kiara froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The head trustee opened the envelope and pulled out the photos. Shouts and murmurs filled the room as the trustees looked at the pictures of Cardinal Leo and Kiara entering and leaving a hotel. Cardinal Leo, what is this? One of the trustees asked, his voice serious. It's not what it looks like, Cardinal Leo said, rising to his feet. His voice cracked as he tried to defend himself. These pictures don't prove anything. Isabella laughed bitterly. Really, Leo? So you think I'm blind? You think I don't know what you've been doing behind my back? Kiara tried to speak. Sister, it's not like that. Keep quiet. Isabella snapped, looking at her. You think I didn't notice the way you've been acting around him? You're just as guilty as he is. The room erupted into chaos as the trustees argued over what to do next. Cardinal Leo kept denying everything, but the evidence was too clear. Kiara stood there silently, tears streaming down her face. knowing her life would never be the same again. Cardinal Leo, you have brought shame to this ministry, one trustee finally said. We need to address this immediately. As Isabella walked out of the room, she turned back to look at him. You've destroyed everything, Leo. Everything. Chiara was at home washing clothes when she heard a loud knock on her door. She wiped her hands on her dress and went to open it. Standing outside were two police officers, looking very serious. Are you Miss Chiara Romano? One of them asked. Yes, I am. Is there a problem? Chiara asked, her voice trembling. You are under arrest for knowingly transmitting HIV to Cardinal Leo, the officer said, pulling out a pair of handcuffs. Chiara froze, the words hitting her like a blow. What? Transmitting HIV? What are you talking about? The second officer stepped forward. We have a complaint from Cardinal Leo. He claims you infected him deliberately. That's not true. I didn't. Chiara stammered, her mind spinning. The first officer didn't wait for her explanation. He cuffed her hands. You can explain at the station, he said coldly. Neighbors started gathering, whispering among themselves. What is happening? One woman asked. Is that not Chiara? Why are they arresting her? Another murmured. Chiara looked around, her face burning with shame. Please, let me grab my slippers, she begged. The officers ignored her and led her to the waiting police van. She struggled to keep her balance as the crowd's murmurs grew louder. At the station, Chiara sat in the interrogation room, her hands still cuffed. A senior officer walked in with a file and sat across from her. Miss Romano, he began, adjusting his glasses. Cardinal Leo claims you knew you were HIV positive and still had a relationship with him. Is this true? Chiara's voice cracked as she answered. I never forced him. He didn't even ask for protection. The officer frowned. So you admit there was a relationship? Chiara hesitated, her heart pounding. She felt trapped. Yes, but he's the one who, the officer cut her off. You had a duty to tell him your health condition. Why didn't you? Tears streamed down Chiara's face. I told him once. He didn't care. He said he was a prince of the church, that nothing could harm him. The officer leaned back in his chair, studying her. Do you have any proof of this? Chiara nodded quickly. I have recordings. I saved messages. I even have information about the financial fraud and the death of the accountant, Marco. I knew something like this could happen. The officer raised his eyebrows. Recordings? Financial fraud? This is a serious development. Yes. He forced me into this. I didn't want any of it. The officer stared at her for a moment, then stood up. We will need all that evidence, Miss Romano. For now, you'll remain in custody. As Chiara was led to a holding cell, her thoughts were a mix of fear and determination. Cardinal Leo had turned the tables on her, but she wasn't going down without a fight. Deep down, she knew the truth would come out, and she would make sure of it. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as people filled the seats, eager to hear the case that had rocked the ministry and the entire city. Chiara sat at the defendant's table, her hands trembling slightly. Her lawyer, Barrister Conti, leaned close to her. Stay calm, Chiara, he whispered. We have strong evidence. Just trust me. Across the room, Cardinal Leo sat with his own lawyer, looking worn and frail. Isabella was seated in the audience, her face stiff with anger. The judge banged the gavel. Order in the court. We will now begin. Cardinal Leo's lawyer was the first to speak. He painted a picture of Cardinal Leo as a victim, a man deceived and betrayed by someone he trusted. This is a case of deliberate harm, the lawyer said, pointing at Chiara. The defendant knew her condition but kept it a secret, knowingly putting my client's life at risk. She manipulated him for her own gain. Chiara's heart pounded as the words sank in. When it was Barrister Conti's turn, he stood confidently. Your Honor, my client is not the villain here. She is a victim of harassment, threats, and abuse of power. Cardinal Leo used his position to manipulate her into a relationship. He held up a file. We have text messages and voice recordings that show how Cardinal Leo coerced Chiara into this relationship. Let me read one message. The courtroom fell silent as he read aloud. Chiara, don't forget who gave you this job. If you want to keep it, you know what to do. Many girls would love to take your place. Shouts echoed in the room. Barrister Conti continued. This is just one of many examples of how Cardinal Leo abused his power. Next, he called the private investigator to the stand. The investigator explained how he had followed Cardinal Leo and Chiara to multiple hotels, capturing photographs that confirmed their relationship. Did my client ever initiate these meetings? Barrister Connie asked. No, the investigator replied. Cardinal Leo always arranged and paid for the hotel rooms. The judge nodded, taking notes. Then came the most shocking part. Barrister Conti called a young woman named Sophia to the stand. She was nervous but determined. Tell the court what happened between you and Cardinal Leo, he said gently. Sophia cleared her throat. Cardinal Leo did the same thing to me. He promised me a scholarship if I helped him with ministry work, but later he started asking for things. I didn't know how to say no. I was scared. More women came forward, sharing similar stories. Each testimony damaged Cardinal Leo's reputation. When Cardinal Leo was called to testify, he looked pale. His lawyer whispered to him, but Cardinal Leo shook his head and stood up. I am a prince of the church, he said, his voice shaking. These women are lying to destroy me. Barrister Conti didn't hesitate. If you are a prince of the church, Cardinal Leo, why did you meet Chiara in hotels? Why didn't you deny her accusations from the beginning? Cardinal Leo stammered. I was weak, but I didn't harm anyone intentionally. The tension in the room was thick as the judge called for a recess. Chiara sat quietly, holding back tears. Barrister Conti placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We've done well so far, he said. Let's see how this plays out. As people filed out of the courtroom for the break, whispers and debates filled the air. The truth was coming to light, but the final verdict was still uncertain. The courtroom was quiet as Chiara's lawyer, Barrister Conti, stood up with a file in hand. He looked directly at Cardinal Leo. Your Honor, he began. It has come to our attention that my client, Chiara, is not the only woman who has had dealings with Cardinal Leo. In fact, several women have stepped forward to share their stories. The crowd murmured in shock. Cardinal Leo shifted uncomfortably in his seat, sweat gathering on his forehead. Barrister Conti continued, let me present testimony from these women. The first witness, a middle-aged woman named Francesca, walked to the stand. She avoided eye contact with Cardinal Leo as she spoke. He promised to help me with my rent when I lost my job, Francesca said, her voice shaking. But instead, he asked me to repay him in a way that was wrong. I didn't have a choice. I couldn't lose my home. The second woman, Elena, followed. He told me I was special and that God wanted me to be close to him. I believed him, but later I realized he had told the same lies to other women in the ministry. One after the other, the women revealed their encounters with Cardinal Leo. The court listened in silence, each story adding to the tension in the room. Then, Barrister Conti delivered the final blow. Your Honor, we have medical evidence that several of these women tested positive for HIV before any interaction with my client. It is clear that Cardinal Leo has been hiding his condition and spreading it to multiple victims. Furthermore, we have submitted evidence to the Financial Crimes Unit regarding the embezzlement of ministry funds and the suspicious death of accountant Marco Rossi, which my client overheard Cardinal Leo discussing. Cardinal Leo's lawyer stood up, looking pale. Objection, Your Honor. This is an attempt to slander my client. But the judge was firm. Overruled. The testimonies and evidence are admissible. This case has taken a more serious turn. The trustees sitting in the courtroom looked horrified. One trustee whispered to another, "This man has destroyed everything we stand for." Cardinal Leo slumped in his seat, his head in his hands. His secrets were out, and the respect he once commanded was gone. The day of the verdict finally arrived. The judge entered the courtroom, and everyone rose. Chiara stood quietly, her hands trembling. She wasn't sure what to expect. The judge spoke slowly and clearly. After reviewing the evidence and testimonies presented, this court finds no proof that Chiara intentionally infected Cardinal Leo with HIV. The testimonies of other women and the medical reports have shown that Cardinal Leo's condition predates his relationship with the defendant. The evidence of financial malfeasance and the new investigation into the death of Marco Rossi are matters for a separate criminal trial. There was a pause, and the judge continued. Therefore, Chiara is found not guilty on all charges. The courtroom erupted in mixed reactions. Some people cheered, others sat in shock, and a few whispered angrily among themselves. Chiara's lawyer leaned over and whispered, "You're free now. It's over." Chiara let out a shaky breath. She had won, but it didn't feel like victory. Her life was forever changed, and the guilt of everything that had happened still weighed heavily on her. Cardinal Leo, on the other hand, sat frozen in his seat. His congregation had turned against him, and he had lost everything. his reputation, his position, and his standing in the church. As he was let out, financial crimes unit officers were waiting to arrest him. As Chiara walked out of the courtroom, she overheard people talking about the scandal. "Who would have thought a cardinal could do such a thing?" one woman said. Another added, "God doesn't sleep. What's done in the dark will always come to light." Chiara looked up at the sky, her heart heavy but her spirit determined. It was time to start over. She would never forget what happened, but she promised herself she would build a new life far away from the shadows of her past. Chiara's journey is a powerful reminder that life can take us through unexpected and painful paths, but every challenge comes with lessons to be learned. Through her experience, we see how power and trust can be misused by those in positions of authority and the devastating impact it can have on others. It's a cautionary tale for communities to hold leaders accountable and not blindly follow without question. Cardinal Leo's downfall highlights the danger of living a double life and the consequences of dishonesty. No matter how much someone tries to hide their actions, the truth always has a way of coming out. His story also shows how unchecked power and manipulation can destroy lives, including the manipulator's own. Thank you so much for watching and joining me on this emotional journey. I appreciate your time and attention, and I hope that this story has left you thinking about the important lessons we can all learn from Chiara's experience. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be there to read them. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on more engaging and thought-provoking stories. Your support helps me bring even more stories like this to life. Until next time, stay safe and remain blessed.